to the red one. I have several of them. Not right here, but in my bag. Yes, I do. I'm collecting those too. I have a collection of them.
So the first of 2 projects is going to be focused on this lesson, so just skim through the articles, get an idea for what the platforms we're talking about, and then we'll come back and talk about them in just a couple minutes. So I hear good conversation, mostly on topic, which is what I I'd encourage in the classroom. Students are going to read articles. They do need, quiet, constructive environment to read. But once they start wrapping up, conversation's okay. It starts ideas flowing. If you're looking at the overhead, you might get a glimpse of what we're doing with this. But I don't want you to think about that yet. First, let's deconstruct these articles and see what we can pull from them. So I'll go back to the dates. Again, September 2012 for the Internet Freedom article. The Republican Party platform obviously was in advance of the election, and the same with the Democratic Party platform was in advance of the election. So, think of the atmosphere at the time. There's probably ads all over television. Who was he campaigning against in 2012? Do you remember this scenario? 4 years ago. Isn't that amazing? Mitt Romney. So Mitt Romney was leading the Republican Party, and he was leading the charge towards the presidential election. So we had these two, icons of their parties, and the messages that they were transmitting was vastly different. And the Josh Smith article does a great job, I think, of fairly analyzing both sides. He starts by talking about the Democratic platform. The third paragraph, I think, is most telling. The White House, the platform adds, has built partnerships to help keep the internet secure and reliable, respectful of U.S. intellectual property, free flow of information, and privacy. Some of those, I think, are counteracting each other. Free flow of information and privacy. You really can't have both. So he probably did his best to ensure both, but you can't have both. So which one is it? And the Republicans will waste no breath in telling you which one it was. And then in the fifth paragraph, he says the move mirrors a similar one taken by Republicans. So they have similar goals, but as we know, the language is vastly different. The only other thing I really gained from the Josh Smith article was the third from the last paragraph. Democrats outline a more positive vision of government as a force for protecting consumer privacy, securing computer networks, and here's my underline: preventing businesses from engaging in anti-competitive behavior. That's important, right? Anybody follows John Oliver on HBO? Certainly not appropriate for classroom viewing. But he had a great conversation on net neutrality. Actually, he had two over the last 2 or 3 years. He did two 20-minute talks on what net neutrality is. And that's where this paragraph is leading. That's where the sentence, in fact, is leading. Preventing businesses from engaging in anti-competitive behavior. What does net neutrality mean? It means basically you're going to get the service you pay for. And any one company who might distribute content on that network can't control the speed at which I see my content. That's just part of it. But basically, if I watch a Netflix movie on a network hosted by AT&T, AT&T can't slow Netflix down in favor of their distribution platform. They might try, but that's what net neutrality means. That's what engaging in anti-competitive behavior means for us, the consumers. There's other arguments that go into that. And if you're looking for more talking points for your students, I encourage you to watch John Oliver. He posts all this stuff on YouTube. Again, not appropriate for classroom use, but listen to it offline, and then you can use some of those conversations with your students because they need to know what's happening also, because they're a big consumer of online content, whether it be streaming videos or otherwise. And they need to know that their rights are being looked out for. And that's kind of where this comes from, this next project. So I'm going to take a look at the Republican Party platform next, and holy cow, it's a page and a half. This is the heavy lift here, and there's a reason why. Compare that to the Democratic Party platform, excerpts dealing with cybersecurity, and it's a column and a half. Why so different? Why so different in 2012? Why do the Democrats only have a column and a half worth of cybersecurity content for we, the American people, versus the Republicans, which have a page and a half? All right? Who had the seat and who wanted the seat? Obama was defending all the great things he had done in the previous 4 years. In fact, there's nary a bad word in there about things that had happened over the last 4 years. Everything was, look at what we did here, look at what we did here, we're going to continue to do this, we're going to continue to do that. So the Democratic Party platform is a fairly easy read. In fact, I identified 3 statements where he said we, and it dealt with something different other than, look what a great job we did. So basically 3 new ideas that he's going to roll out versus the Republican platform, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 statements that begin with we, and one of them that I put really with a question mark next to it. This was really one of your focuses. So you can see there's a big difference. They were trying to identify everything that the Democrats didn't get done, or stumbled on, or fell short of, and how they were going to do it better. So a lot of really vast differences. I had one statement here, the second column, first paragraph on the first page of the Republican platform. It's the last sentence of the paragraph that starts with we. We encourage public-private partnerships. There's a lot of alliteration here. We encourage public-private partnerships to provide predictable support for connecting rural areas so that every American can fully participate in the global economy. And I wrote, next to it. That was 4 years ago. Do we have all rural communities connected yet?
Yeah.
In the ag folks, we talked about the fact that they've got these combines that are gathering data from GPS satellites to autonomously manage their fields. If they had broadband in every area, then these would be connected by Wi-Fi. Unfortunately, they're connected by GPS, which has its own set of limitations. So that's also true here, because we've got medical facilities in rural areas that need reliable internet also. And if it's not broadband, then it's either going through a cellular service or through satellite service, through DirecTV or something, and that's uncomfortable also. It's an uncomfortable way of doing business, because there's a lot of risk there also. So some of the stuff we're talking about deals with that specific sentence. Another thing that's important in the Republican platform is on the last paragraph on the first column. Today's technology and telecommunications industries are overseen by the Federal Communications Commission, established in 1934. So they make a big point of calling in the history that is ruling today's modern environment. They go even one step farther and say that commission was overseen by the Interstate Commerce Commission, created in 1887. So are we to believe that the Republicans think that the current internet is monitored by a network that was established in 1937? That's what it looks like, right? That's the...
You're saying that our laws are outdated compared to the technology today.
Right, and their laws are outdated compared to the technology today, and in some case that's true. But we also know that the government and businesses have done a great job in keeping up with technology, not maybe the laws, but the technology and safeguards, they do their best, but technology is moving very fast, and it is tough to keep pace. But the Federal Communications Commission has certainly evolved since 1934. That was the day, that was back when we had telegraph and Morse code transiting high power wires that were going next to the railroads. So a lot has certainly changed since then.
They do say this is not a good fit, and then go on to say, even in 1996, it's out of date.
Right, the Telecom Act of 1996 is still out of date, and we know how fast Moore's Law operates. Data doubles every decade, so technology is getting faster and faster, chips are getting smaller and smaller. Something we did last year is out of date tomorrow. So we do need to do a better job of keeping up with this stuff, and I'm sure those of you who are in private industry realize that fact as well. They spend a lot of time talking about making the internet family friendly and what they're going to do about online gambling, what they're going to do about online sexual predators. The Republicans paint a very frightening picture with a lot of their comments here. I have a drama with an exclamation point next to the middle paragraph on the first column of the second page. The U.S. cannot afford to risk the cyber equivalent of Pearl Harbor. Drama, right? They're inciting that fear in us. Talking about this global shutdown. We've seen blackouts in the Northeast. We've seen utility attacks. We know, I don't know if you know about it, but Stuxnet was a virus that was created in this country and sent over to disable Iranian nuclear centrifuges so that we would take their weapons-making processes offline. Somehow, that virus found its way onto a USB drive and made its way up to the space station. So there's all sorts of security flaws, and a lot of them are we're to blame. So some of it is, they're right to paint this dramatic picture, but at the risk of instilling, mass fear, that's a tough one to swallow. They do mention at the bottom of that paragraph, though, that their most effective way of combating potential cybersecurity threats is sharing cyber threat information. I couldn't agree with them more. That this content needs to be shared amongst the different agencies because they all have different resources to process this information and identify links and the patterns. So the task here, and I'll ask you to play along as if you were the students. I've put 2 pieces of poster board and a couple of markers. If you don't like your colors, talk to the table next to you. I'd like you to come up with some statements that might shape a Bill of Rights style document focused on internet security. You could pull some arguments that Democrats and Republicans talked about. You can take some ideas that you might have for yourself in terms of, as you as a head of household or you as a head of a classroom, what do you hold, what beliefs do you hold strong in terms of internet security? And form some kind of Bill of Rights document. I'll tell my students, and I have an image to show you of some of my students working on this. The easiest way to start each sentence is with the word we. We feel that this should be. We would like to see this happen. One of the things my students went to time and again is this conversation about auction of spectrum. You know what spectrum is? All right, when we look outside and we see that spectrum of colors, well, it's similar to what they're talking about here. When we say auction of spectrum, and the FCC is doing this, data travels on frequencies. So we have radios that are set to certain frequencies that I can modify the signal to send data out, and that's how we transmit information wirelessly. Well, the FCC says, okay, ABC in Williamsburg, you can broadcast on this frequency. NBC in Williamsburg, you can broadcast on this frequency. And how do we get there? We changed the channel, and back when we had the dials. And we would actually dial in the analog signal that brought us that information. Well, the spectrum, where we can transmit data, is enormous. We're only using a very small percentage of it. There's a lot of unused spectrum. And what the FCC has done historically is have auctions where they would sell a certain bandwidth of spectrum, say from the 100.3 megahertz to 100.7 megahertz, and that would go to an FM broadcaster who wanted to transmit rock and roll, right? And then 100.7 to 100.9 to someone who wanted to broadcast classical. And these people would buy that spectrum. They haven't done that in a while. What's the benefit of it? It's a great fundraiser. One of my main questions for my students when they do this is, fine, I like that, but how are you going to pay for it? So they always come back to this, oh, let's auction more spectrum. Okay, let's auction more spectrum. There's other ways, but that's a good one. And the Republicans talk about it specifically in their platform. They wanted to auction spectrum to fundraise to pay for these internet security issues. So be aware, if one of you has something that I feel is going to cost some exorbitant amount of money, I'm going to ask you how you're going to pay for it. Your answer is probably going to be, well, auction spectrum. That's my students do anyway. So I'll give you a couple minutes if you want to. We do one of these per table, two of these per table. You're going to use the other side or the other piece of paper for something we're going to do next. But list a couple, list 5, 7, if you can get all 10, awesome. I'll give you about 10 minutes to work on this. You just want to pull some simple statements about internet security. Like a Bill of Rights document. What an example of this looked like in my classroom back when I wrote these materials. First of all, this is a set of master notes that you'll see in our Canvas documents. This is cyber literacy. This is lesson 3, Presidential Cyber Platform 2 master notes. So what this includes is a list of objectives, materials that you'll need, including those 3 articles, a list of objectives, and then talking points. These are kind of my thoughts when I wrote this about how you could cover this in the classroom. Students should begin the class by reading the article on Internet Freedom. So this is kind of the talking points that you might want to look through before you present this in class. And it goes through a couple different paragraphs, a couple other ideas for getting resources. Electronic Frontier Foundation has done this similar activity and has some documentation about it. But then this is a picture looking over a student's shoulder of their document. And they titled it Cyber Threat Bill of Rights, and it starts with, "We the people of the United States believe that we should be protected from cyber threats." Cool. Nice simple statement, and I would ask them to elaborate. They go on to say, "The government should not be able to take your information without a warrant. Websites should not be able to take personal data from its users without their permission." So you can see some of the conversations I've had with my students are a little more in-depth than what we've had here. But these are very surface level statements, right? They're almost obvious. And that's fine. That's essentially what the Bill of Rights is, right? To us these days, it's obvious. These 10 things should be inalienable. So all I'm asking is just a couple quick statements based on what you've learned. Maybe focus it on your industry, that's fine. But something to identify gimmies, right? The things I shouldn't have to work for, that should be guaranteed for me in terms of internet safety, cyber threat safety, that kind of thing, if that helps clarify. I'll give you a couple more minutes because I want to move on to your specific field for the last 45. Give about 60 seconds, get a couple thoughts.
Yeah.
About 10 seconds. Five, four, three, two, one. All right, no worries. This isn't going to be submitted for a grade. It's just to get the perspective of what the students are doing here. So who's got something they want to hold up? Hear this. Cool. That's it. Just a couple statements. I would hold my students to 10, but just a couple thoughts on internet security, right? Things that you might feel you should be entitled to. I'm going to hold you to. You're still work in progress. So